We cannot sail, we cannot resume our operations, we are effectively trapped. Sea-Watch 4, as well as its crew, were put into isolation outside Palermo in Sicily for more than 2 weeks. The whole team tested negative for COVID-19 twice during this time, but were forced to stay at anchor. They were denied a crew change and were unable to continue their passage to Spain. This is now the 5th rescue ship to be detained in an Italian port in as many months. On August 15th, the Sea-Watch 4 set sail for its maiden search and rescue mission. During the transit from Spain to the central Mediterranean, news broke of a fatal shipwreck off the coast of Libya. European authorities repeatedly ignored calls to help the stricken boat, and 45 people were reported dead. It was a devastating reminder for all of the crew of what is at stake. Over the next 7 days, we rescued 354 people in 4 separate life-saving operations, including the transfer of 152 people from the Louise Michel. These aren't just numbers. These are men and women, children, pregnant mothers, elderly people, people with disabilities. Almost 100 of those we rescued were aged under 18 and traveling alone, kids and teenagers without their parents. The youngest person on board was just 10 months old. Our MSF medics treated people for dehydration and hypothermia, for traumatic injuries and fuel exposure. One teenager had to be evacuated due to the severity of his chemical burns, sustained from exposure to gasoline and salt water mixed together in the bottom of a rubber boat he collapsed in. People told us they would rather die at sea, that they would rather be dead in the water than to spend another day trapped in Libya. After days without being given a place of safety, our request for a port became increasingly desperate. But again, EU authorities refused to take responsibility for those rescued at sea. And despite humbling resiliency, the survivors were pushed to their limits, psychologically and physically. Finally, 11 days after the first rescue, we were given permission to transfer the people to a ferry for quarantine. In the end, the ship was left with no choice but to enter an Italian port. Going in, we knew that it was unlikely that we would be able to leave. MSF called it a foregone conclusion, and we were right. Legitimate maritime procedures are being manipulated and abused by Italian authorities. Inspections of NGO vessels are becoming a way to block search and rescue efforts. From Moria to the Mediterranean, Europe's approach to migration has been to systematically trap and push back and abandon people, whether that is leaving them to die at sea or holding thousands of men, women and children in appalling conditions in camps on the Greek islands. Europe is disregarding its legal and moral duty to save lives by opting yet again to impose abusively bureaucratic and administrative measures on another life-saving ship. The Sea-Watch 4 must urgently be released so that it can recommence life-saving search and rescue in the central Mediterranean, because nobody should be left to die at sea.